Guys, my name is Sinette Cruz and I had flood myths for my presentation. So, what are flood myths? Flood myths are depictions of floods that usually are sent by a god or gods to destroy civilization as an act of divine retribution. The flood waters act as a cleansing for humanity in preparation of any rebirth that may happen. Most myths actually include a culture hero that represents the human craving for life. Many civilizations actually have flood myths, and there have been tablets that have been discovered that tell the flood stories from the cultures in the area where the tablets were found. Some argue that the myth of Gilgamesh is actually the source of the Bible's flood story, and in the Sumerian story of Gilgamesh and other stories, the gods destroyed humanity because of overpopulation. So, the Genesis flood narrative, this comes from chapters 6 to 9 in the book of Genesis. And the narrative tells of God's decision to return to earth because the people on earth were going against him and sinning, and from their sins it made him feel bad for creating them. Out of all humanity, the only people that listened and behaved properly was Noah and his family. So God saw the earth as corrupt and filled with violence, so he instructed Noah to build the huge ark and basically told him how to build it so that when the flood came, they would survive. When the people around Noah saw him building the ark, they made fun of him and they didn't believe him when he told them about the flood that was going to happen. This is just some pictures of the ark and it being built basically. So when the time came, Noah, his sons, and his sons' wives, as well as a male and female of all living creatures, and 7 pairs of some animals went onto the ark. Once they were on the ark, the heavy rains started, which meant the flood had started. So on the 17th day of the second month of the year, it rained for 40 days and 40 nights. After 150 days, God remembered that Noah was still on the ark and stopped the flood. Once the flood stopped, the ark actually landed on top of mountains. After 40 days, Noah let out a dove, and it returned, meaning that there was no land or any trees, basically, for it to land on. After 7 days, Noah let the dove out again, and it returned with an olive branch, which means that at least the trees was above water. And then after another 7 days, Noah let the dove out again, and the dove never came back, which meant that the land was not under the flood water. Noah then opened the boat's roof and saw that the flood water had left. And the flood was basically the reversal and renewal of God's creation of the world. Basically everything except Noah and everything else on the ark died from the flood because they drowned. This is just some pictures of the ark again and the animals going on the ark. And once they came off the ark, Noah built an altar and made a sacrifice which pleased God. And Noah and God created a covenant where God actually promised that he would never destroy all life with a flood again, and he also told them to be fruitful and multiply, kind of like he did with Adam and Eve in order to repopulate the earth. After God made his promise, he formed a rainbow to show that he was going to keep his promise. And he also gave them a set of laws known as the Noahide laws. So this was basically 7 laws that God gave to humanity to follow. They're also known as the 7 laws of Noah or the 7 commands for Noah's sons. So the first law is do not deny God. The second law is do not murder. The third is do not steal. The fourth is do not engage in sexual immorality. The fifth is do not blaspheme. The sixth is do not eat of a live animal. So they cannot eat the flesh taken from an animal while it is still alive. Basically meaning that they can kill animals and eat the flesh, but they cannot eat the blood of the animal. And number 7 is they have to establish courts and legal systems to ensure the obedience of these laws. According to the Jewish tradition, actually, the first 6 of these 7 laws were given to Adam in the Garden of Eden. The 6th law, to not eat live animals, was there, but Adam did not eat any animals. And when God created the covenant with Noah, he added the 7th law. Each of the laws is seen as a summary of more detailed laws, which are about 211 total. So yeah, basically this was Noah's Ark, and it was a flood myth where God wanted to create humanity again so that they would not sin like they did before.